What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? You're watching SkepTalk on the line. It's January 15th, 2024, and the lines are open if you'd like to call in with a question about the history of Christianity, Christian origins, or whether or not a God exists. Any of those good things. The phone number is 720-619-2288. Like I said, all the lines are open. Yes. Call us if you're calling from the US, but if you're not and you'd like to call in from the web, there is a link down in the description for you to call. I'm the Godless Engineer, and joining me today is Derreck Bennett. Derreck is a YouTuber who discusses God, biblical criticism, and history, the topics surrounding religion on his channel, Atheologica. Did I pronounce that right? I think I remember.
You nailed it. That was you. If this is the ballpark, like you're way out there. It's Atheologica. You dumb sick bastard.
I know.
Good grief! Take some more Tylenol.
Yeah,
you blubbering idiot.
Derreck, do you want to sort of tell everybody like what you do over there specifically and everything that you got maybe coming up that maybe you're planning or whatever?
Sure. I'll tell you some of that. So I've been big into comparative religion, comparative mythology for something like 18 years. This all began when I read Dan Brown's The Da Vinci Code, and I was actually suckered by it. It was like, oh, this guy's telling the truth. And it turned out, because of my insatiable curiosity, I had to know more. I had to do some follow-up research. Turned out Dan Brown might have been a little bit of full of shit on a few things, but there were some things he said that were in the ballpark, and I eventually wound up figuring out what those things were by reading actual good academic scholarship and so forth. So I'm a big comparative religion nut. Among other things, including biblical criticism and whatnot. So that's what landed me here with this this asshole tonight on the line.
Yes. So we're going to be jumping into calls here in a minute, but do remember at the show's end, we will be taking super chat questions and we will be reading out any super chat over $5. So if you don't want to call in, but you got a simple question that you want to hear us address, then sending in a super chat's the best way to hear what our response is. So definitely consider doing that. And like I said, we do have most of the lines open. We do have one caller that's calling in. And I think it's shaping up to be an interesting call. So let's see where that goes after they get screened. Yes, a good one. I do want to talk about one thing before we start, in case any of y'all wonder.
Here we go.
I'm sick. I've got a little bit of a head cold. I don't know if it's like a sinus thing or just an upper respiratory thing, but I definitely have like a sinus headache. That's why Derreck, have you heard of what a hot toddy is?
Yes, I have heard of a hot toddy. Okay, but I'm drawing a blank as to what it was. But I know, like I'm 46 years old, so I'm the cool kids are kind of leaving me in the dust. So remind me what a goddamn hot toddy is.
Well, it's whiskey, lemon juice, honey, and hot water. And and it's actually, I was a little skeptical because I've never had like hot whiskey before, but it's actually really tasty. So
as you probably know, I am 5 years sober, recovering alcoholic, but I will relapse and try one tonight just for the show.
No. Please,
I want a damned hot
please no.
toddy.
This was just like, this might make you feel better. I've also got tea here, which brings me to my next point about where did I get sick at, and that's I was on a Caribbean cruise to various parts of Central America. So we went to Belize, Honduras, Cozumel, and Costa Maya, and we got to see Mayan ruins. And that was actually really interesting because we actually got a history lesson going along with that too. And I have to say that I heard a lot of the same motivations that like a lot of Christian stories or biblical stories have. They were discussing like the human sacrifices that took place, and basically you wouldn't want to sacrifice anybody that isn't part of like the best of the population or the best of somebody else's population that you just conquered or whatnot. And so that's who would be sacrificed, like the best, which made me think about how Yahweh wants like the first fruits. He wants the best tributes and all this other stuff. And he even jerked off one time to some dude sacrificing his little child. So, that seems to check out. Religions everywhere kind of shit.
Did he jerk off to this? I wasn't aware of the jerking off episode.
I mean, that's a paraphrasing of mine, but he was definitely pleased with the sacrifice. So, yes. I mean, you could take that pleasure however you want to, I guess.
I think if I remember right, even Ephesians says that the Christ sacrificed created a pleasing aroma for the Lord, just like the sacrifices in the sacrificial cult of the Old Testament. That's they pounded him onto that stick, and it must have smelled damn good to old nostril carrying Yahweh.
Yeah,
God, that stuff sounds legit. It sounds like a true story. It sounds like real history to me. It really does. I don't see why anyone doesn't believe it. It's on point.
What other proof do you need about it, right? It just sounds nice, and that's it.
The inherent plausibility is just there. So, yeah, get right with God, heathens, because this stuff is it's so plausible.
It is. Well, we do have somebody, a theist, already lined up in the callers. Do you want to go ahead and tackle this call?
Bless his heart. Bring him on. Bring him on the show.
Okay. So this is a little topical for my shirt tonight. By the way, evolution is a fact. So we've got Anthony. How you doing there, Anthony?
Hey, how you doing?
Okay. Well, I'm doing all right. I mean, I'm sick. I got mucus running out of my head. So if you see me, muting or whatever, if I try to die of choking on mucus, that's it. But anyways.
Yeah, I called yesterday, but I was having technical issues with my phone connection. So hopefully today's a little better. If there's issues, just please let me know. But I was talking with Forrest and Matt about evolution, and I asked them for evidence of it. We never really got around to the real evidence, in my opinion, but I kind of want to change the topic a little bit and just try to see if you all accept the premise that for atheism to be true, evolution and abiogenesis must necessarily be true. Do you all agree with that notion?
I have my thoughts, but Derek, do you have any ideas on this?
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about the way that you framed that. The evidence, as I understand it, for evolution via natural selection is so compelling, it's so undeniable, from my point of view, that's at least part of what leads me not to believe that a deity would have been necessary to have created man, ex nihilo, or however you kids describe it in the theology department. So, and as far as abiogenesis goes, I mean, I don't think even the scientific community knows for certain how or what kick-started that process. But I know that to kind of jump the gun and say, well, we don't know what was behind that, therefore it must have been a miracle, is clearly an argument from ignorance. It's got to be gaps. So, just given my understanding of evolution via natural selection, I just don't see any good reason to credit creationism, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, I understand that, but well, go ahead.
Yeah. So I have difficulties with how you phrased it, because for one thing, like atheism to be true, atheism is just simply a description of whether or not somebody believes in a God. That has no connection as to whether or not like a God actually exists. It's just what that person doesn't believe in, and they don't believe in a deity. As far as atheism goes, as far as abiogenesis and evolution goes, I don't usually like pure dichotomies like this unless it's like a proposition and then its negation, right? And this is obviously not that. So I feel like making this kind of dichotomy here is not considering like the possibility that like God could have used abiogenesis and evolution, I guess, in order for everything to come up, or a deistic God. But also I think that evolution as we understand it today, it can change and it can become something different than we understand it. And so I wouldn't say that abiogenesis and evolution must be true in order for atheism or there to be no God to be a true fact. I think that those things are kind of opposite. I think that abiogenesis and evolution being true, as the evidence has shown us, because like Derreck said, evolution has mountains of evidence behind it, which proves that evolution has happened in the past. That's how we got diversity of life on Earth, and that's evolution is still happening now. And abiogenesis, while we don't have all of the steps of abiogenesis yet, like proven in the lab or anything like that, the most likely conclusion is that abiogenesis, being a natural process, is the way that life started, at least here on Earth. It may be a different process elsewhere. I mean, we don't know. We don't have enough information to say one way or the other. But I think that both of those things can be true and God still exists. And I also think that both of those things can be true and God not exist, but those aren't the only options, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So there was a lot of points made there. So as you, I'm sorry, I wasn't sure who was speaking. I'm on the phone. I can't. I'm not looking at a computer screen or anything. But for who said that one of the reasons that you think a creator is not necessary is because of your conviction that evolution is so overwhelmingly true, and presumption that haven't figured it out yet, but abiogenesis is true. Likewise, for the theist, I feel like the reason a lot of people are theists is because when they look around and they look at life and its complexity, and many people feel like life gives at least the appearance of having been designed. That's what keeps many people in the theist mindset. So my opinion
can I
is
pause
that
right here?
Excuse me?
Can I pause you right here? Because I'm just
Okay,
kind of
go ahead.
curious if you could define for me what it means for something to look designed. Could you like define what that means to you?
Basically, for something to be to look like it was designed, is as opposed to something that was a result of purely naturalistic forces acting upon matter. So the blind forces of matter, just kind of blowing atoms around in space. The gravity, electromagnetism, the nuclear.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Anthony. I'm sorry to interrupt. You're not answering my question. Can you describe what it means to be designed? Because, like, for instance, with your, I'll repeat my question here in a second, but I'll show. I feel like an explanation is necessary. So, like, we know the natural processes that go into like plants developing. We know the natural reasons why plants develop in the way that they do, with the pollen and the pistil and all of that, with the different designs that like bees can see, and why those particular plants and those particular designs, like on the petals and everything like that, why they survived and others didn't in certain areas and everything like that. So, I mean, if we have a natural explanation for how something came about, then we don't need a god in there in order to explain how it came about. Because, and maybe you can answer this question for me first. Is God necessary for rain to occur?
No, I would say no.
Okay, that's a natural process that's explained naturally by natural through natural means. Now, this like I use that as a simple example, but it can be applied throughout anything that you see in the natural world. So what I'm looking for in this and what I'm asking you is to define what it means to be designed. What does it mean to be designed? Like to you, I could tell you what it means to me, but I want to hear what you say first.
Yeah, I feel like there could be a number of criteria I could mention. I think one of the main features of a designed, I'll just use the word system, is that it's a system of components and parts, each of which is necessary for the whole to function. And if you take one of the parts away, then the system as a whole ceases to function. It's very hard for naturalistic mechanisms to create even simple functioning systems like that. So if you have a system
that's not even true. I'm sorry, that's not even true. Can you name one particular system in nature that can't operate with, all of the parts?
Yeah, like a living being, like an organism. So a cell or
that doesn't
an animal.
A cell.
So an organism, think about a cell. It has a nucleus. It has the. Go ahead.
So, I mean, like, are you trying to tell me that like even the simplest single-celled organisms don't exist, that have very few like moving parts and all this other stuff? Like, those don't exist to you?
They exist. They're systems. Every living organism that we know of is a system of probably thousands or millions of independent but mutually necessary functioning parts. This is why humans have not even come close to creating a living cell in a lab from scratch, if I could use that terminology. There's so many parts. And there's
No, that's not even true. So typically, whenever somebody brings up specified complexity,
what's not true?
What's not true is that you can't remove like a single part of any of these organisms,
okay.
and they won't operate, because you can we don't know how the first cells originally evolved. They probably, and I believe more than likely, evolved without a nucleus at first. And then later on, it just proved more advantageous for that to happen, because on the best explanations that we have for the results of abiogenesis, like I'm thinking of like the RNA world kind of theory, which isn't the only idea out there as far as a scientific hypothesis for the beginning of life, the beginning of single-celled organisms. They didn't exactly have like nucleuses and all this other stuff in there.
How do you know that? How do you know that? Because are there any organisms that operate today without with only RNA?
That has nothing to do with how life first evolved, and this is a hypothesis. It's not.
Why do
we have it
hold
proven?
on. I just want to. You all say you believe in science, which is what we observe, and you are giving credence to RNA world hypothesis, which says the earliest organisms operated only in RNA. How do you? We have never observed an organism that can self-replicate only using RNA. So why would you believe that that's something that's possible?
Because the hypothesis has explanations for how they would operate. We have never observed. No, you're not going to do this. You're not going to do this, Anthony. You're not going to sit there and interrupt me. I was speaking. I politely interrupted you, asking you if I could stop and everything. So you're muted right now. But so I forgot what in the fuck I was going to say. But essentially, whenever somebody comes up with this kind of argument that you can't take out individual components and you'll end up with something that doesn't function or something like that, and that's a sign of design. Typically they talk about the bacterial flagellum, but the thing is that we've actually been able to remove certain components of the bacterial flagellum, and all it seems to do is actually manipulate its mobility. And this has been seen throughout nature and throughout the studies. Now, you were kind of being a little shitty there about how, you guys prefer science and all this other stuff, and you're adhering to this hypothesis. Yes, it's a hypothesis that has yet to be disputed. And it will remain a hypothesis until we have evidence for it. But the reason why I side with the more naturalistic explanation is because everything that we've experienced so far, everything that we once thought was some magical god that was doing it, has later been proven to be a natural process. Abiogenesis, therefore, is the most likely conclusion to that. So while we don't know, and we don't have the specific evidence we would need in order to say that we know, and this turns into more of a scientific theory rather than a hypothesis, even though we don't have that, we could still be pretty secure that that's most likely the way that it happened, because we have yet to prove that magic is real. So I'm going to Derreck, do you have any thoughts before I unmute Anthony here?
I've got a couple, actually. And I haven't looked at this. I haven't had to bother with any of this stuff for quite some time, but it's bringing back some memories of things I used to delve into. But the Kitzmiller versus Dover area school district court case that this took place during, I think it was during the Bush administration. So this is quite some time ago, when the intelligent design proponents were trying to inject their rebranded creationism into public schools. And George W. Bush, he actually appointed a conservative judge appointed by George W. Bush, a believing Christian, presided over this. And in the end, the intelligent design proponents got their asses handed to them. I mean, mightily. And one of the evolutionary biologists who was very pivotal in all this was a Dr. Kenneth Miller. So Anthony, or whoever else is listening, I implore you to check out the work of Dr. Kenneth Miller, an evolutionary biologist. You can find his videos on YouTube, where all of this stuff, it got its, I hate to say it, Anthony, but this is really old news. Like, this is old. stale stuff. And the bacterial flagellum, of course, was one of Michael Behe's favorite examples of irreducible complexity, is the very argument that Anthony is trying to foist here. And this stuff was debunked. Kenneth Miller knew damn well if you take a bacterial flagellum and you remove some of the components or parts, you still have functionality. So the kinds of things that Michael Behe, the creationist, was trying to argue back then just turned out to be utterly false. And we still have somebody like Anthony on the line trying to promulgate this stuff because you people refuse to learn. The other thing I heard there was something of a false dichotomy, the thinking that if nature's responsible for producing complexity or living organisms, that just doesn't make sense because nature is just pure chaos and randomness, right? Well, that's actually not true. I think the analogy that was used by a creationist back in the day is that you wouldn't expect a tornado to go, sweeping through a junkyard and to just put together an automobile to try and say that nature's just not capable of putting together fully functional, complex organisms. Well, that's not a proper understanding of how evolution via natural selection works. The process is like this: the genetic mutations that occur and get passed on, yes, that is purely random. The mutations themselves happen utterly randomly. It is random. The process of natural selection is non-random. It is not random. If you understand how natural selection works, it is a non-random process. These mutations, give rise to new features and characteristics that will either survive in a given environment and therefore be passed on to progeny and continue down the line, or those mutations will give rise to characteristics or features that are disadvantageous in a given environment. And those features will be discarded as those organisms die off or don't live long enough to procreate. That's how natural selection works, and that is a non-random process. So you have to understand that evolution via natural selection involves both randomness and non-randomness, and that's how we get accumulative changes that give rise to complexity and functionality.
All right. Anthony, you're being unmuted. All right. So you're unmuted. I know that was a lot to handle, okay, but do you have any ideas?
Yeah. So I didn't bring up BE or the flagellum. Every living organism
is the same stuff. You're regurgitating the same stuff. It's the same old shit, Anthony. You don't need to.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, let's go with it. So every living system is a complex system of systems. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I'm fine with that, Anthony.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, not every system within the system is going to be necessary, but we're still, let's look at humans, for example. Humans are a system, their whole body, and you have a number of other systems within the system that are either essential or beneficial, like eyes, and which are not necessary, but take lungs. Lungs are a system which is within a system, and if you take the lungs out, the human's going to die. And with the heart and many other organs, the brain. So we have systems within systems. And my point was that natural forces have a very hard, and well, go ahead. Yeah, all right.
Well, I was just going to say, so you bring up lungs as being a necessary system in humans, and I feel like you're presenting, I guess, a false analogy here, because you're essentially talking about taking a system that has evolved to work the way that it does, and you're just arbitrarily pulling out some part of it, right? But what you're not considering is the fact that there was a lot of evolution that went up to that point, which includes animals that don't have lungs. And so
they function.
Like
they function in other ways.
Huh? Right.
Exactly.
But you're totally ignoring the point that these lungless animals are part of our evolutionary history. You can't attack evolution by ignoring most of the argument for evolution and most of the argument for how we evolved. Like, you're sitting there and you're taking the final product and being like, well, if I rip this out, then it don't work. And you're like, boom, drop mic, evolution shit, believe in God now, motherfuckers. I mean, that is just not ever going to be compelling.
All I'm trying to establish is that humans, or giving an example, I'm not saying that's proof of evolution being false. I'm just trying to establish that humans are a system of systems. And the original question was, what is design? And I'm just trying to say that a design object is one that has, multiple systems, each of which is either necessary or, very beneficial to the whole. So,
okay. Let me stop you right there, because I guess that's a definition of what you could mean by design. But as you just said, our human bodies are a system of systems, right? And we have natural explanations for how our bodies evolved. We have natural explanations for how our bodies work, and we have natural explanations for how our bodies break down. Me with diabetes, I can explain, my pancreas is fucked. But my point is that we have natural explanations for these things, so we don't need a God in order to explain it. Therefore, that makes our bodies natural systems, which are a natural system of systems, and therefore are not designed if they're naturally produced. So that is not a good definition.
That's the entire question that is at the basis of everything. Is did they evolve? Could they have evolved? And the whole problem is that natural forces cannot arrange these things over time, and they would also have to be
explain to you why that's wrong.
Let me say one more thing.
If you're not going to listen when somebody explains the fallacy in your arguments, then I don't give a shit about hearing anything else you have to say. I already explained to you why when nature does things, it is not always purely chaos and randomness. And that went right through your ear, through your head, and out the other. You people don't listen when we explain things to you. This is why I don't like doing these stupid debates. You guys don't listen. I'm done with you, Anthony.
Am I allowed to speak?
Go ahead. I'm checking out.
Go ahead. We're gonna
okay.
We're gonna try to wrap up this, because we can't go for hours on this particular topic. So
okay.
Lord,
I forgot what I was going to say, but we never answered my original question about whether abiogenesis is necessary for atheism to be true.
We didn't get to that because you can't seem to define what you mean by designed. You can't tell me what it means for one object to be designed and one object to be not designed. I think that's because on creationism, everything has to be designed. And so there's no way to distinguish between designed and undesigned objects, which makes your hypothesis unfalsifiable. And that's just not, that's never going to be a good hypothesis to bring up in a scientific discussion.
And I forgot, I remember what I was going to say, which is that not only does a system have to exist, but in the case of living organisms, it's encoded in the DNA as a system of written instructions, which also seems, and when you're talking about natural selection, and it's not just a tornado in a junkyard just randomly blowing things around, and you get the final product right in one event. That's true, but we have to ask ourselves: can the tornado create these beneficial adaptations?
Because it's not a tornado, Anthony. Did you not understand anything that I said? I'm saying the tornado analogy is a false analogy. And here you're still trying to use the example of a tornado. This is proof that you're not getting it because you're so dead set on trying to prove your theism for whatever goofy emotional reasons that you don't listen when people explain things to you. This is why I can't stand dealing with you theists. I'm here on the show for shits and giggles, but you people are impossible. It's why I don't like dealing with you anymore. You're impossible.
Okay. Well, yeah, it sounds to me like you're not able to answer my questions and you're getting upset. So I think that's part of the problem.
I'm genuinely
annoyed. Yes.
Now, Anthony, it's not that we can't answer your questions. We've been able to answer your questions and tell you like the many fallacies that you're using. We're able to tell you why it's not convincing, why like even your definition of what it means to be designed, it doesn't make sense. So it's not that we can't answer you. It's that you don't like the answers you're getting. And that's it.
Right.
That's all.
But I still love you.
What's up?
Anthony.
Nope, he dropped.
Don't you fucking leave me, Anthony. Don't you leave me like this.
He dropped. We were wanting to know, Anthony. Fuck.
I'm sorry, John. I just can't with these people, man. Like you tell them, you explain the fallacy in their reasoning, and they just oop. It's God. It's the same old song and dance. Lord.
I mean, it really is. I mean, I feel like we were going around in circles by the end of that.
Oh yeah.
And
absolutely.
And he just really wasn't listening, and he didn't. And I really think that's what it is. They don't like the answers that they get, so they're just like, "Oh, well, you can't answer me." It's like, no.
Yeah, I mean, once they're up against the wall, all they can do is yeah.
It's like I'm not providing them the scripted answer they want me to give them, so I can't answer them, and that's just totally ridiculous. And I really
I flat out told you it's not a tornado, and you're still pushing the tornado analogy. Like, what the fuck, dude? Like what?
We do have all lines open. All the lines are open. So if you want to call in, make sure that you do. Our number is 720-619-2288, or you can hit up the link in the description and you can call in if you're not from the US. So definitely check that out down below. But before we get to any caller that might call in next, which we probably scared off the theists. But before we continue to the next caller, I just want y'all to know that if you like the work that we're doing here at The Line, the best way to support us is to join us on our Patreon at patreon.com/call the line. Also, just to remind y'all that coming up this week on The Line, we have the Hang Up to Wednesday night at 6 p.m. With Matt Dillahunty and his guest. I believe that's Kane. I know I wrote that down, but I'm sitting here thinking that maybe I wrote that down incorrectly, but I'm going to look it up really quick because I get access to it. Kane B is the guest that's going to be on with Matt. And then on Thursday, we've got Takis with Katy and Arden. So y'all at 2 p.m. Central. 2 p.m. Central on Thursday, 6 p.m. Central on Wednesday. So I hope that you guys will join us for that. But like I said, we do have all the call lines open. Hit us up at 720-619-2288. And just to spur conversation here, Derek, what is like the worst argument for God that you've heard? Like that you've either dealt with, you've heard someone say proves God or whatever.
I don't know. That last one was pretty bad, given how dated it is. And, you know what I mean? You like, given that the very arguments he's using were smacked down in court by a conservative. It was a conservative judge appointed by George W. Bush, who even this guy had to say, yeah, you guys just don't have it. Like, you don't have it. It's evolution is scientific. It's well established. It's well evidenced, and this rebranded creationism is not. And yet these people are still peddling the same nonsense. It's been debunked for God knows how long now. What else is pretty terrible? I don't know. I'm as an alcoholic, I attend AA pretty regularly, and I like AA insofar as it goes. I love the people there, and I'm all for them believing and practicing whatever it is they need to believe or practice in order to stay sober. You know what I mean? I don't have to agree with them. They don't have to agree with me. I don't care. I just want them to be well. But it's interesting, in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, the founder of AA, Bill Wilson, poses an argument for God's existence, and it's the old natural law argument. We live in a cosmos that is governed by physical laws, very precise laws. There therefore must be a lawgiver, an intelligent mind or creative force behind this, and it's an equivocation fallacy, of course, because a law, a physical law in science is a descriptive law. It's not a prescriptive law. It's so you're playing up the wrong aspect of that word or its meaning in order to get the desired effect. We see, like, a good example of this would be the laws that like it's the law of conservation of angular momentum. It's responsible for the formation of galaxies strewn throughout the cosmos. I mean, this is a very precise, immutable law that is, it holds true throughout the material universe. But it's that very same law that gives way to hurricanes and tornadoes. Now, we're actually legitimately talking about tornadoes this time, that leave death and destruction in their wake. You choose to see an actual creative intelligence behind that? I don't think so. It's just dumb, blind nature doing its thing. So, but as we discussed, nature is capable of some pretty incredible things, given examples like evolution via natural selection, the cumulative process of order that comes out of a system in which you have an infusion of heat energy, like our planet here, where you've got the sun just constantly inundating us with heat energy. In a system like that, you can get order and you can get complexity, if any of that followed.
No, yeah, I'm right there with you. I think that as far as the worst arguments for God, especially when you get down to like the specific definitions of God, like Christianity or whatnot, I think the moral argument is actually a pretty bad one, just because Yahweh seems to be a pretty shitty God, like in general. So I don't see how that can prove it. And if it's not a specific definition of God, that lays down these moral laws, then how can the moral argument prove like a God at all? It seems really weird.
Yeah, you trumped my example big time. That one is terrible. It's bad. It's really bad. I mean, it's a stinker.
No, I think yours was great, but that's just my own personal one that I really hate, and it's so ridiculous to hear people purport it. But we do have another person on the line. You ready to take the next call? All right. Just to let everybody know, the number is 720-619-2288 if you want to call in and confront us about any of the stuff that we're talking about tonight. So we've got April. What's up there, April?
Hello.
How you doing?
Oh my goodness. I've had a reoccurring dream for like a year, and I was like always searching for something. I would be in a building or in a neighborhood down at the beach, and there would be a roller coaster and all this stuff. And it was just like, okay, every time I went to sleep, I was like, okay, where am I going tonight? And then I started playing this game on my phone, and it's building a city and a farm. And as I'm playing it, I'm recognizing the buildings, the roller coaster, the neighborhoods. There are things that are in the game that were in my dream, and now I have not had a reoccurring dream like that for since I've been playing the game, and it really upset me because I'm an atheistic skeptic, and I don't believe in the supernatural, but it was just so odd. You know, if I were not a skeptic, I would say I'm living in the Matrix, and my dream proved it. And that's it.
Interesting.
Okay. So like, you think, I'm guessing you're not saying that your dream actually proves that we're like living in a simulation or anything, right? Like, that's not what you're saying.
No.
Okay.
But it was so similar to the game that I'm playing that it just like, it gave me the creeps, kind of. I don't think I'm living in a simulation. No.
Well, so, I don't know, Derreck, I want to give you a shot first. I know that I talked a lot in that last call. So, do you have any ideas, initially?
No, I think it kind of makes sense that if there was if I understood you correctly, there was a game you were playing and you felt as though you were living this out in your dream, correctly?
No, I dreamed the game for like a year, a little over a year. And then I started playing the game, and I recognized the game from my dreams as the game I was playing. It had
Like
the
a kind of
roller
precognition.
coaster. It had the big precognition. No, it's just weird, and it did upset me. And there's nothing I can do with it. It's just a weird coincidence thing that happened.
Well, so can I ask what game it is that's on the phone?
It's called Township. And it's one of those farming games, and you build a little farm, and then you get to build a city, and then I got the roller coaster and the glass building, and I'm like, wow, this was from my dreams. And I happened to be, I guess just happened to be setting the game up like I visualized it in my dream. So, there's a little neighborhood. But I have looked at other people's, towns and farms, and it's kind of like, everybody does pretty much the same thing. Go ahead.
Okay. Have you ever heard of the, I guess he's more like an entertainer, or you might call him a mentalist, Darren Brown?
No, I haven't.
Okay, there's this one. He did this. I can't remember what the show is called. I watched it a long time ago, but basically in this one episode of this show that he did, where he was doing a bunch of mentalisty type things, and one of those things was that he got 3 marketing specialists, right? And what he did was he brought them on a bus through a specific route through this large city, right? And he was bringing them there so that they could design a marketing campaign, like a billboard image, for them to use to market some fabricated product line.
Okay.
And in the episode, basically, Darren was like, I'm going to predict exactly what they designed for me. And of course, they get there, they collaborate, They design something, they present it to him, and basically Darren holds up a paper that he's already drawn, and it's pretty much the exact image that they have also scripted up. Seems magical, right? But the problem is that along the route that Darren brought them on, he had subliminal messaging in the billboards and everything along the road to get to the office building that they were going to. And so just looking this up, knowing the name of the game, Township was originally released in 2011. So it seems to me like you probably saw the game somewhere and you consciously didn't know that you saw the game. I know that I am, especially like on TikTok, Facebook, and all this other stuff, I'm constantly berated with advertisements for the games on that you can download on your phone, and that they show you hundreds of ads for and all this. That they even show ads. Like, one of the ways for these free games to make money is to show ads while you're in another game. So I like my wife, she likes to play Tetris, Crush, Candy, Asshole Land. I don't know. Sorry, not asshole. Yeah. That's my bad. Block Blast is which, anyways. So it pops up an ad every once in a while, and it's for other games, and you can play other games. And so what I think probably happened was that you saw the game, and maybe it was marketed to you. You were doing something, maybe you said something because Facebook's always listening, and it started showing it to you, and then you know that gets incorporated into your dream because subconsciously your mind retains it, and then you downloaded the game, you started playing it, and and I don't know if maybe because it's out of your subconscious now and it's in the forefront of your mind, and so it's not influencing your dreams, or maybe that's just something that your brain's not dealing with anymore, or it's just not there. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist or anything, but my guess is that you saw it somewhere and then that got incorporated into your dream. In one way or another.
That's more plausible than living in the Matrix. But I thought you said Derreck Brown, but I do know who Darren Brown is. So I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I respect that guy. So, well, that eases me up a little bit, but some weird subconscious stuff got in there, and it was just weird that I would dream about it for a year. Anyway,
okay.
I appreciate you taking my call.
You're welcome. I really appreciate you calling in, April.
Okay, thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye, April.
Sorry, I didn't mean to take up all the time there. Did you have anything else to add?
No, I just love your explanation there. I had myself a reoccurring dream where there was this engineer who had no gods, no gods. This engineer had no belief in gods. Would crawl into my bed and make sweet love to me every night. Every night. I mean, it was enthralling. Next thing you know, I'm scrolling through YouTube one day. I find this channel, Godless Engineer. I was like, whoa, watch out your bunghole, buddy. This is magic right here. Unbelievable. So, it happens. It happens. I probably saw your show.
So,
one thing led to another.
Yeah. Anthony did call back in because he said he lost the call. Do you have any interest in really engaging him again?
Not really. But you can take the call if you like. I don't care.
Oh, okay. Anthony, we're going to bring you back on, but we're not going to spend too much time. Something happened, and we'll let you have some final thoughts here, but we're not going to spend too much time, okay? All right. Hey there, okay. Anthony.
Yeah. Sorry about that. A call got dropped, so I understand you probably don't, thought you got rid of me. Now I'm back, so probably boring to keep doing the same thing. But I did want to kind of, as far as I could, try to get to the bottom of what we were talking about until you all get tired of me. So I do want to go back to the original question I asked, which is, if atheism, for atheism to be true, it must necessarily also be true that evolution and abiogenesis are true. And since you all are so convinced by the evidence, I don't see why you wouldn't accept that premise. I don't think you ever really answered that question.
Well, so I feel like I did. It's a malformed question. Atheism being true isn't a thing. If you want to talk about God, not for God to not exist, then abiogenesis and evolution have to be true. I don't necessarily agree with tagging both of those things together. And so that's another way that the question's malformed. I just don't think that we need to mix the idea that God doesn't exist with the scientific hypothesis of abiogenesis and the scientific theory of evolution. I think that God could not exist and both of those things be true. And I think that God could exist and both of those things still be true, which means that they're not connected in any kind of way, and therefore is yet again a malformed question.
Okay, so for a person to lack a belief in a God, it would be necessary for that person to be convinced that there's no reason for a God to exist. And therefore, that person must also be convinced that these natural processes and these natural forces are capable of creating what we observe in life today. So, would you say that's correct?
So, no. So, all it would entail is that the person is not convinced that a God exists, not that a person is convinced a God does not exist.
Right. So, how else could life have arisen if it wasn't by some sort of intelligent creator that we would call a God?
No, I'm not.
Except by natural processes.
I'm not going around and around with you, Anthony, on this. Like, I'm really.
Hey, Anthony, is the intelligent creator alive?
It would be conscious and intentional and purposeful. Yes. So
is he alive?
It's aware of what it's doing. Yeah, if you want to call that alive, I would say that.
Well, how did that life arise from non-life?
We don't know. That's the thing. So the question when it comes to intelligent design, intelligent design.
Is it okay for you not to know, but then it's not okay for us to have an I don't know answer? Because that's what it seems to me. It's a double standard. It actually
is.
You have the benefit of not knowing, while we have to have all of these answers for shit.
Well, we're not trying to answer the question of what is the nature of the creator or the intelligence. We're only trying to answer the question of, was there an intelligence behind life? So the answer about how the intelligence was created does not fall within.
Anthony. Here's what you're not getting. Derreck just asked you point blank, is God alive? You said yes. You're saying that life can't come out of nowhere. It has to be created by some kind of intelligence, which puts you in a bind, saying that God is alive. So therefore, if it's true in the real world, I guess, then your God being an aspect of this real world, he also cannot just come from nowhere. So then where did your God come from? Is there some other jackass God that is not alive in some kind of way that created him?
Because you basically end up with an infinite regress.
Right. Or you can specially plead that your God has been eternal all this time, which is just you specially making up this special class of entity out there that doesn't have to be constrained by anything and somehow exists outside of time and space for all of eternity, which doesn't make sense to me. How can you exist outside of time and space and have any kind of agency about you, or exist in any kind of way? That makes no fucking sense to me. So I feel like the things that you're purporting here are just putting you in an even deeper bind. And I feel like you need to think about a few things. I guess you need to think about what it means to be alive. I mean, that's something that we deal with when classifying like viruses. Are viruses alive or are they not? Like that's a serious question in the medical community, and I guess in evolutionary biology. And then you also need to think about what does it mean to be designed, because you still have yet to give us an actual definition for what it means to be designed. The way that you described being designed or items that are designed before don't actually describe anything that's designed. So it seems to me like you need to think about your position on a few things. And I hope that you will come back, maybe to talk to Forrest or Erica or somebody that is far more knowledgeable on this topic. Cause like I've got a surface level understanding of this. I'm an engineer, so I can understand these complex topics.
So are y'all running? Are y'all running?
We're scared shitless, Anthony. We're running, buddy.
No, I dropped him. No, you don't come back after I told you, hey, you need to think about a few things here because you can't even define what design means, and then be like, are you running? And it's like, no, I'm not fucking running. Jesus fucking Christ. Anyways, we do have other more reasonable people on the line that we can get to. Which I know we do prioritize theists here, and we do have a theist that is on the line. We've got Michael. How you doing there, Michael?
Great. How are you doing? Is it John?
Yes, this is John.
Yeah. Hey, John. Nice to meet you over the phone. Well, I've been following quite a while, and I just find it an interesting topic. For me, well, first of all, I'm going to say that I think ultimately we both have to say we're agnostic on the God question, and I think that's why the whole agnostic atheist term comes about, and that's why I actually, I can't prove to you that God exists, but the argument that I like, so maybe you guys like a formal argument that I can run through, and we can jump off from there, and I can present that if you'd like.
Okay,
so this is it's actually from Peter Kreeft, and you've probably heard it before, but it's just four-step argument. We experience the universe as intelligible. The intelligibility means that the universe is graspable by our intelligence. 2 is either the intelligible universe and the finite mind so well suited to grasp it are the products of intelligence, or both the intelligibility and intelligence are the products of blind chance. This is one that you might not agree with. Step 3 is not blind chance. And then the conclusion is, therefore, the intelligible universe and the finite mind so well suited to grasp it are the products of intelligence. And I think it kind of fits into the previous caller, too, in a tangential way. Hello?
yeah. Sorry, I'm just considering it. Plus, my mind's really foggy tonight. Derek, did you have any thoughts?
No, I've heard this one before, and I know it's been addressed elsewhere, but I don't recall. I think somebody like Richard Carrier, who's really great at analytic philosophy, would be the right person to kind of pry apart this one. I don't have an immediate answer to this myself.
Well, I can kind of flesh it out a bit. It's pretty. I mean, I'll present it in maybe a little bit simpler terms. Let's say, can we agree that the universe is intelligible? We can use science to probe the universe and come up with true factual knowledge. I think we can probably all agree on that. So the universe is intelligible. Our minds are able to. Go ahead.
Hold on. So I can agree with that, but do you also agree that science is a man-made tool that we use in order to understand reality? And so, like, if reality was different in some kind of way, if reality was different in some kind of way, then science would also be different.
To probe the physical universe.
Right. So I guess I'm really unfazed by, like, I don't understand how that factors into your argument, because, like, if I make a tool in order to drive a piece of metal into wood.
No, I
then
agree. So that's just like, that's step one. I think everyone's pretty much going to commonly agree with that. Every scientist, physicist, or whatever is probably going to agree with that. And then, so it's really step two and step three, which basically, take it out of the analytic philosophy realm and just say, basically it's saying that because of, it's kind of like the argument from reason, saying that because intelligence exists, rationality exists, logic exists, that the universe itself couldn't have produced that, and then it goes into consciousness as well.
Well,
it couldn't have
you would need to prove
that just from the laws of physics and matter and energy. It goes. In the brief history of time, Hawking said, "What breathes fire into the equations?" And I would say that intelligence. Yeah, go ahead.
Michael.
Go ahead. Yeah.
You need to prove that intelligence and all the things that you listed can't be naturally produced. Like, that's the problem with the argument. As far as, I guess, step two goes, you need to prove that the universe or that nature can't produce those things, which I don't think that you can actually do.
Yeah, exactly. And
right. The problem I'm having is I don't
Right.
understand why intelligence or rationality or any of these cognitive processes or labels that we give to things, the way we evaluate things, I don't understand why that can't be an emergent property or emergent properties. I don't. It doesn't follow to me.
Okay, I can respond to that. For me, and this is just I have an engineering background, and as a hobby, I try to follow physics and science and stuff like that. But I would say that for me, even Hawking's in brief history of time, Stephen Hawking said, what breathes the fire into the equations? I know that's thrown out there a lot, but I think that open-ended question leaves it kind of lends for me towards some type of intelligence. And then consciousness itself, I know that's a big thing, and people, start getting weird about it and start talking about woo-woo. But there is just that big mystery behind it. And for me, just on an intuitive level, because for one, as I said in the opening, that I can't prove it. For me, it's just more.
Michael,
go ahead.
So what I'm not hearing is evidence that nature can't produce intelligence, and that we need some kind of magical aspect to our consciousness or our intelligence or anything like that. Right. So that's where I'm stuck at.
Good.
Well, I mean, that's where I'm stuck at, because we have natural explanations for how our brains developed. We have natural explanations for how our brains operate. We have natural explanations for all these things that do not include any kind of magic that's necessary for any of these things to happen. Right. So what I would need from you in order to take this argument seriously is some kind of explanation or argument that explains how nature can't produce those things.
Sure. Nature has produced those things, so that nature can produce those things. I'm a kind of like a vague theistic evolutionist. And go ahead.
Then why do we need God? If nature's perfectly capable of producing intelligence, consciousness, and all that, then it seems like we don't need a God in order to explain where those things came from.
Well, that's the possibility space for it to happen. That is what needs something. I could give an argument for a necessary being, and you could say, well, it's a quantum waveform, but it does come down to intuition or trying to actually convince somebody. But for me, it just doesn't fit. And then I personally have had many, many experiences where I know that consciousness is not contained just within a quantum waveform inside my skull. I know that even my own consciousness pushes out, into the world in a way. And I'm not going to tell you about any experiences because I might lose credibility.
How do you prove that? What's the proof that your mind magically leaves your body and experiences reality outside of your physical body?
Well, I mean,
Like,
I have
is that
had
what happens when you
an
smoke enough
OB, an
weed?
out of body
Is that what
experience,
happens?
and I also have experienced instances of telepathy, which, I can't document scientifically because they were basically things that just happened in the course of life. But for me personally, just because I've had enough of those experiences that I know it does exist. So thoughts, I think, can transcend,
so let me ask you
your
this.
neuronal patterns in your brain. Go ahead.
Well, let me ask you this, because you seem to indicate that you're somehow telepathic. How can you discern that from, you just having some kind of false belief that you can read people's minds? I mean, don't get me wrong. I've been through that phase in my life too. When I was a little kid running around with my friends, I was like, oh yes, the fucker's hiding in those east woods over there. Go get him. And it's like the dude was hiding behind a car or something,
Right.
I've bullshitted myself into believing ridiculous shit in the past too. I'm just saying, how do you
Right.
discern between bullshitting yourself and like you're really telepathic?
Yeah, well, for me, it's because, by projecting a thought and then I've done it kind of experimentally with friends and then also even with strangers where it seems to have happened, but, and even in more subtle ways, but, it's going to become anecdotal and psychological and you can explain it all away. So I don't want to go down that route. I mean, for me, that's proof. For me, it's proof. I mean, it's experience because everything that we know, every factual piece of knowledge, every belief based on real facts about the world are based on our experience.
Okay, Michael.
So, I think it's valid for the individual.
What does it mean to project a thought?
Well, I'm not saying believe me or not. I'm just saying what I've experienced in my life.
That's not what
for me. So that gives me experimental evidence.
Thought? Like you put two fingers to your temple and you just think really hard about something. Like, what am I thinking about right now?
It is about focus and projecting a thought, and it is obviously in a language too. And so that it has to be an advanced English speaker for it to happen or whatever. But I don't want to go too much into my anecdotal experiences because.
Okay, but before you continue, though, Michael, Derreck has some input.
Huh? Go ahead.
Derreck has some input on projecting thoughts, maybe a more serious topic. What do you got, Derreck?
Michael?
Derreck? Go ahead. Go ahead, bro.
What am I thinking right now?
Well, yeah. See, that's the thing. It's a local phenomenon, and it's in my own personal theory. It's based on quantum waveforms, in your mind that operate on a level that's too subtle for detectors to detect.
Wrong answer. The answer was Jimmy Kimmel's ass. That thing is good.
Pretty much. That's why I didn't want to go down the
good. And you're there in California. You could go bring it to us right now.
Well,
hey, Michael, I do want to say
we're off on this tangent now. I wanted to kind of stick more with science and start talking about some other things that lead me to believe that some type of formative intelligence caused the reality that we exist in.
Yeah, but you understand that what we're asking is that we need evidence in order to say that.
That's what Hawking meant by what breathes the fire into the equation, some type of teleology. Even in evolution, they've changed it. They don't call it teleology now. They call it teleonomy. And that's basically just the whole process that, that creates the survival of the fittest, that creates the alleles and the whole genetic structure that gets passed on and gets evolved into more and more complexity. But I think we're in a pretty good space because our minds are the most complex things in the known universe.
You take way too long to talk.
Push that subject. Go ahead,
Michael.
Go ahead,
Michael. So what I'm not hearing is you justifying some of these claims that you're making. Like you're just claiming stuff without actually providing evidence for it. And when we ask for evidence, you're like, "Well, I'm telepathic." And then when we try to test your telepathy, you're like, "Well, it's a local thing. You got to be here so I can project my mind onto your mind." And so
You cut off there. I don't know if you can hear me.
We got you there, Michael. I'm just saying that we're not hearing evidence. We're just hearing claims, like anecdotal claims, and no actual justification.
Yeah, that's why. I mean, we're on this rabbit hole, and that's why I've been saying, as I've been telling you this, that's not really what I want to try to present to you. I'm just saying, for me personally, because you asked me, what leads me to believe that, the argument from conscience that I'm giving you, because basically what we're saying is, and we could get into fine-tuning and multiverse and, the many worlds and, go down all these rabbit holes to try to explain our reality. But I think that some type of theism must, that's why I call myself an agnostic theist, just that I just don't believe that it's a random miracle that this beautiful earth exists in the way that it does. Now, I'm not saying that's impossible.
So no. Well, I can't let that go. I can't let that go, Michael, because it's not like a random miracle. Derreck explained this pretty well earlier. Like, it's not just all chaos and all this other stuff, molecules bouncing into one another. I mean, molecules do bounce into one another, but your understanding of what random is not like what we're talking about in this particular instance.
Exactly, but it's a whole, and the way I would approach it, if I was going to try to argue the case, would be that go back to what Hawking said, what breathes fire into the equation.
Hold on. Okay, I don't care what Hawking said. Michael, I really don't care.
Explain our physical reality.
Michael, I don't care what Hawking said.
Go ahead.
Michael, I don't care what Hawking said. Okay, I don't care about any of that. Let's try to reduce this down to something a little bit simpler. All right. So, is there? Do we know how to explain precipitation, like rain? I used this with one of the last caller, Anthony, I believe it was. But with rain, like, do you believe that we need God in order for rain to occur?
No, obviously not. I probably believe exactly the same theories and evidence that you do. It pretty much, unless I find something dodgy, which theoretical physics and many more, some of these things start getting dodgy. But you mentioned emergence.
Okay. Hold on, Michael.
Wanted to talk about that because
I get that you have a lot to say, but please just bear with me here. Okay. So you would say that whether or not an area of the world gets precipitation, that would not be random, right? Like, that's not random.
No, it's purely based on the laws of physics and water molecules and how they interact and temperature differentials, all that stuff.
Okay, good. I'm so glad we're on the same page, right? So with consciousness, intelligence, and all this other stuff that we're talking about in this argument, those are emergent properties of physical systems that are not random, right? In the same way that precipitation's not random. The biological systems
because go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, well, I mean, I was just going to say that the biological systems are not randomly developed. They're not randomly evolved or anything like that. They're but intelligence and consciousness, those are emergent properties that are exhibited by those systems. And so this is all very naturalistically explained.
Okay, so I granted that what you said, that's factual statement, and this is where we fall into the inexactitude of human language. But you keep saying emergence, and I'm going to say, well, that's not a whole lot different than magic, except that there's a causation and a correlation factor that we can look at. But
let me ask you this, okay? If I mix,
or that it emerged from molecules and matter. Go ahead.
Hey, Michael. If I mix two different colors together, producing a different color, is there somehow magic that happens in order for that new color to be produced, or is that new color an emergent property of this new mixture?
Well, the emergent color is just the wavelengths of the light, and it's your consciousness that perceives it.
Right.
The problem is whenever there's... Go ahead.
Well, I'm just trying to simply explain to you how it, like, emergence of some kind of property yeah, when you mix two different things together, or things develop, together, or develop over time, or whatever, the emergence of new properties of whatever it turns into is literally not magic. It's a natural explanation. So you just saying, oh,
No,
well,
I,
emergent properties are magical.
that's what I said. Right. I mean, I'm not saying that it's magic. I only use that word because you had used it earlier. But what I'm saying is we
but
use the
God
word
is
emerge,
magic.
gaps, these jumps that we in complexity that we go, like, the whole hard problem of consciousness. It's a real thing. And if you really look at all the very many intricate arguments, there's a lot of people and a lot of physicists and scientists now that are looking at it as something that we can't just say that it emerged for no reason. I think you talk about viruses and bacteria. You look at the very most basic types of life form. They have a teleology within those organisms to survive, the will to survive, or however we're going to try to put it in human language. But there's some kind of force, even in the most basic type of life, that wants to go towards survival and reproducing itself. That's I guess emergent too, but I put emergent, then I put a question mark by it in my mind, that there's logical gaps when we throw out that word. We can say, well, it just emerged from matter and energy over the course of time because we got lucky in this little Goldilocks spot of the universe, which that is also true as far as we know. We haven't found any other life. Although
Michael,
so I guess
we do need to wrap up.
So go ahead. Yeah.
I was just saying we do need to wrap up, and I feel like I'm gaining like nothing here at the end. I don't know, Derreck. Do you have anything to close out with?
I understand. I would say the same thing about saying that there's no God. I would say that you're an agnostic who claims that there's no God. Well, fine, but you're left.
No, that's not what I claim.
You don't have any proof either.
That's not what an agnostic claims, and that's not what I claim.
True, right? Ultimately, you're agnostic when it comes to God, aren't you?
Yes.
Logically? Right.
Yes.
So, we can leave it at that, fellas. But, hey, it was nice chatting with you. There's a lot of deep topics, a lot of science, behind it all that would take hours and hours to flesh out. But I just wanted to jump on and see what you guys thought.
Thank you for your call, Michael.
Thank you for calling in, Michael.
That was my pleasure, guys. You guys have a great one.
All right. You do the same there, Michael. Oh my God. Okay.
I felt like at least he's a really nice guy. Like, contrast his tone and his demeanor with, Anthony, and there's a world of difference. Like, at least he's sounds like a reasonable human being.
He's a
right,
guy,
right.
Yeah.
At least he's a nice guy. I just really can't get on that. Why wouldn't you think that properties are emergent in nature? That's precisely what we observe. And
I don't know. I don't understand why he would put a question mark by emergent, because like emergent is like defined, right? Right. I feel like whenever we use the words, we know what those words mean. It's like not a question that this is emergent, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, I don't know. I'll never be convinced by somebody just saying, "Oh, it's got to be magic." Like, you think thoughts? That's got to be magical right there. Like, that's never going to be convincing to me.
Yeah, there's a the whole process of science works out this sort of cause and effect nexus that is by definition not magic, right? If we understand what that cause and effect nexus is, if we understand the sort of processes behind these things, and not to say that we understand all of them, but we understand quite a bit, and everything that we've come to grasp thus far doesn't require any kind of magical explanation. It's all part of that naturalistic cause and effect nexus. I just don't. Sorry, Michael, I'm not seeing it, bub. He definitely lives in California.
Yeah. We got Scott next in the queue. So we're gonna go to Scott. I'm a little timid about taking this call, I have to say, but hi Scott, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. I've been in a conversation with an anti-abortionist and a theist for the last few weeks, and we ended the conversation with me saying I'd be happy to answer any questions about atheism that they had. So a couple of weeks went by, and today they asked me what my thoughts were on the axis of evil. And I immediately thought of George Bush, but apparently the axis of evil is some kind of cosmological alignment of the solar system with the background radiation that somehow puts our solar system in the center of the universe, and therefore God.
And therefore God. I would have trouble not laughing at if somebody proposed this to me. Yeah, I looked up, so I did a Google search for axis of evil, and it says the George W. Bush thing, which he describes Iran, Iraq, and North Korea as an axis of evil, arming to threaten the peace of the world, is what he said.
If you Google it says, axis of evil minus Bush, you'll come up to the cosmological thing.
Yeah, I was going to say the next thing is axis of evil may also refer to a name given to the apparent correlation between the plane of the solar system and aspects of the cosmic microwave background radiation. And I'm just kind of curious, like, is it only like the plane of our solar system that has this effect, or like if I do a handstand and I perfectly align my balls with the moon and the rest of the solar system and the cosmic microwave background, you'd
have to have very big balls.
I mean, you've not seen my balls.
You now know as much about it as I do, really. I just was hoping that you knew more or much more.
This is a woo that I've yet to hear about, but I don't know what Derreck thinks about this. I feel like when I hear this, I hear Derreck going, "Oh shit." Best get out my crystals. Hopefully Mercury retrograde doesn't fuck this up. But I kind of feel like it's just like, oh, let me take these arbitrary things, and if they align, then something magical is going to happen. And the same thing happens with like Mercury retrograde. People think that when Mercury is in retrograde, that bad stuff happens, but it's like, why does Mercury have anything to do with like anything that happens here on Earth? And it seems ridiculous to me. I don't know. What do you think there, Derreck?
No, I think that any proposition that that inspires you to want to align your balls with the moon is that's good stuff. I would like to see if maybe I can align my balls with your balls as you're aligning your balls with the moon, and if we can't just start a train. You know what I mean?
Well, now we're talking about 3 moons at the same time, and that's just way too many.
That's a lot of moons
I don't
and
know.
balls.
I feel like that's going to amplify the power of the balls
of the axis
in
of
order
evil
to align both of. Yeah, right. Exactly.
If we do that, we're going to open up a portal to another dimension, and Ra's al Ghul is going to come swinging through that portal, chopping our balls off. We can't do this.
Well,
we cannot do this.
It's a good thing I can't do a handstand anymore.
Prove it.
Prove that I can't do a handstand?
Because I think you can, Scott. Don't bullshit me, Scott. You still got it.
Oh, okay. I'll tell you what. I'll send a picture. No, I won't. You'll just have to take my word for that. I'm 67 and 340 pounds, and no handstands for me no more.
You're 340
At any rate,
pounds?
gentlemen, if I get to hell before you do, I'll save you a seat by the fire. Bring marshmallows, and we'll make s'mores. And you have a
we'll
good
align
day.
our balls.
And align our balls. Thank you,
Thank
Scott.
you, Scott.
Mm.
All right. That was a productive conversation here. We just need to align all of our balls together, and then we'll be able to like kill another planet like the Death Star. I feel like that's accurate.
When the moon hits your thighs like a big pizza pie. That's the more.
I just want to remind everybody to do a super chat. I know last time I was on the show here, last SkepTalk I did, we were battling Star Wars versus Star Trek. So where do you align on that particular spectrum there? Do you like Star Trek or do you like Star Wars, or you more of a Stargate person?
I'm a Star Wars guy all the way. I personally want a lightsaber of my own. I really don't want to die before I get one. I have a couple of fantasies. One is that I'm Batman, and the other that I'm a Jedi. I just think, yeah, man. And Darth Maul is just the coolest. He is the coolest. He looks like the devil, and he can do acrobatics, and he's got a double-edged laser sword. You can't outcool that. I'm sorry, you can't do it. You can't do it.
Yeah.
Star Wars all the way.
What I want everybody to do is if you want to send in a super chat, ask us a question, but you also tell us what's your favorite sci-fi thing. I'd like to know, because there's a lot of different ones. It's hard to pick just one between those two, which I didn't mean to like box you in there, because there are people that are mentioning like Doctor Who and Battlestar Galactica and all these other things. It's a little hard to just pick between the two. Doctor Who's pretty awesome. But I'd love to know what everybody thinks in the chat, but also send in your questions, anything $5 or more, we will interact with. So definitely let us know what your favorite sci-fi show is when you super chat.
And John's balls or mine?
John's
His are infested with sickness right now, so I'd be real careful.
We do have one other call to get to, but if you're a theist in the crowd and you have a problem with anything that we said tonight, you can call in 720-619-2288. Also send in your super chats, like I said before. We'd really appreciate it. So now we're going to get to Pip from the UK. What up there, Pip? How you doing?
Hello there. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Oh, Kip.
Gotcha.
Pip, hello.
Yes, hello. Well, I will start off by saying that unfortunately this conversation may not be as balls to the wall as the previous one. Anyway, I will try to keep this as brief as possible because I am a very long-winded individual, and I had a little bit of trouble summarizing the point for the pre-caller or whatever they call them. But anyway, I wanted to ask about if anti-theism is short-sighted in its goals. I don't know if either of you consider yourselves to be anti-theists, as some of the hosts on the line have been, but I'm an atheist, but I don't consider myself anti-theist because when it comes to the issues that are propagated by religion, I don't think the root cause is religion itself. If we could click our fingers and tomorrow, magically, for the sake of argument, magically just make all religion disappear, make every single person in the world an atheist, just like that, I don't think we would have solved the central problems that are behind religion, which is bigotry and an unwillingness to challenge our own biases. And I would like to get your perspective on that.
I 100% agree. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. It's I loved Christopher Hitchens. I mean, I just loved Christopher Hitchens, but I don't really agree with him that it's religion is the root of and maybe this wasn't his point. I want to say that religion's certainly not at the it's not the root of all of our problems. It can be problematic when it is utilized a certain way, like for instance here in the U.S. by the religious right, by certain political factions, especially those who endorse forms of bigotry and prejudice. It's human nature is going to be a problem one way or the other. It just is, and there are, yeah. I mean, there are other there are some major issues that we would still have to contest with and fight hard to root out, even if religion wasn't here. I agree wholeheartedly.
Well, I
Yeah.
kind of feel like the proposition though is a little bit wrongheaded in that it ascribes some kind of end goal for anti-theism. Like anti-theism has goals. I don't really see anti-theism as having goals.
Yeah, I do apologize if I insinuated that anti-theism was a goal-orientated philosophy as opposed to just, well, an opposition to something.
Right. And I mean, I would classify, in my understanding of anti-theism, I would classify myself as an anti-theist, but I would classify myself as an anti-theist because I feel like any belief that, any religious belief or other belief like woos, different types of woos, can ultimately be a detriment, to society. And looking up on Google, like anti-theism, it's just simply an opposition to the belief in to belief in the existence of God or gods. It has nothing in there about like wanting to wipe religion out or wanting to force other people not to be religious or anything like that. I would say even under this dictionary definition of anti-theism, I would consider myself an anti-theist because I am in opposition to a belief in God or gods because I don't feel like those things comport with reality. I don't think the idea of a God is representative of what we experience in reality. And so I'm very much opposed to a belief in that. And I don't think that really says anything about, what I'm going to do. It's just that I think that that's a bad belief. I'm in opposition to it. So I think that people out there that want to forcibly wipe religion off the face of the planet or out of their society or whatever, I think that that's wrong. I think that the way, if we were to get rid of religion altogether, the only way that that's going to reasonably happen is if we eventually, as a society, as humans in general, the human species would have to collectively move away from religion in whatever form that takes. I know a lot of people out there would be like, well, we'll be educated out of religion, and so religion will just kind of be a concept of the past, kind of like in Star Trek. Star Trek, there's not really a religion in the future. Religions are antiquated things of the past in that particular universe. And so I think that whatever way it happens, I don't think that necessarily be educated out of religion or anything like that is how everybody would leave religion. But I do think that as a human species, we would have to move away from that idea, which is why I don't think that that's a real reasonable thing. But I still maintain my anti-theist position because I feel like religious belief is a net negative on the society that we live in.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. I am someone who has followed many atheist-related YouTube channels and the like for the better part of my adult life. And I often notice a lot of similar patterns in religious dogmatism that occur in, other, oppositional ideologies like transphobia, for example. And to paraphrase probably one of my favorite video games, I believe in a universe that doesn't care and people who do. And as such, I am happy to, and I'm sure you probably will be, I am happy to, stand side to side with religious individuals who are opposing transphobia and opposing the encroach of the religious right. Because I worry that in our opposition of religion, which in of itself is not necessarily a bad thing, we are forgetting that there is a problem of human nature behind the religion itself, and that is an unwillingness to challenge our own biases and our views of the world. And I feel that there are occasions where perhaps illustrating that will help more people to recognize the limitations and overcome what is often at the heart of religious indoctrination, if this makes sense.
What you're saying is really resonating with me, Pip. Like, for instance, Christian nationalism here in the U.S. From what I recall, the research has shown that these people are not regular churchgoers. They're not even terribly biblically literate. It's not a problem with Christians per se, as much as it is with people who have these strongly held biases and prejudices and deeply ingrained bigotries. And I will gladly stand hand in hand with someone who is a devout Christian who is opposed to the same things that I am. I mean, you bet, 100%. So I just I find myself strongly agreeing with what you had to say.
Mm-hmm. I suppose you could say that. Sorry, I'll just add this as quickly as I can. I suppose you could say that it's a matter of perspective, and that sometimes we need to step back and look at the broader picture as opposed to the surface issue that is often how the religious right imposes itself, especially in places like the United States.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, and I was going to say that I agree that the human behavior aspect is not cured with or without religion. And so I would agree that we would still have that problem. So I'm right there with you there, Pip, on that particular notion. The only thing that I had an issue with was this idea of anti-theism having some kind of goal to it, because I really don't think that it does. That was the only problem that I had with your statement. But I think that like what Derreck was saying about the Christian nationalism, and especially here in the U.S., it's white Christian nationalism. So basically, they're using their religiosity in order to push this very racist kind of point of view, and they're using Jesus in order to justify it. And Jesus, the reverence that we give religion, which is one of the reasons why I'm an anti-theist, is that this reverence that they give to Christianity and other religions in this country is the reason why white Christian nationalism can be so pervasive in our country, and it's even starting to spread to other countries now. And so I don't know if you have any white Christian nationalists over there in the UK, but if things keep going the way that they're going, I mean, it might proliferate over there. So,
I don't want to say that they don't exist, but from my limited personal experience, religion, especially Christianity, while it is endorsed by the state, it is a very different method of religion than it is of the nationalism. It is a very internal, personal, focused idea that is largely not discussed in the wider public sphere. People might go to church, they might believe it, so on and so forth, but it's incredible, it's relatively rare to see people openly preaching, in the streets. You do still get it, but it is not to the same, nearly to the same, like, national extent that you get in the US.
Right.
I wish we were more like you.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, hopefully we can, as we have agreed upon, we can ally ourselves with those Christians who understand the heart of the problem being, bigotry, and how the authority and blind authority of religion is used to enforce that. Because in my opinion, just to close out, religion is as much a social construct as, say, gender is. It's a method that we humans have invented to explain our world. And that can be morphed to fit whatever lens we desire, be it, a more, supportive, love thy neighbor kind of deal, or the, religious right authoritarian kind of deal, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
Yes, but yeah, fantastic. Well, I thank you very much for this conversation, and I greatly appreciate your perspective. I think it's been very productive.
Yes,
you're
one of the better callers that we've had tonight. Thank you.
Amen.
Good to know. You take care. Good night.
All right. Good night, Kip.
Good night.
Pip, see you later. All right. So we are keeping one line open. I think we're going to have to go to Super Chats now. No lines open. Thank you, everybody, for calling in, but we could use a couple of more Super Chats. Otherwise, we'll have to align our balls and take on the world. By world, I mean like Mars or something. We'll have to, destroy Mars. People might want to see that. Do a Super Chat if you want to see it. Can I align our balls and destroy Mars?
You do.
Yeah. We're going to go back to back, balls aligned, and then we're going to shoot it out like the Death Star. Sorry, hun. All right. First up, we got $5 from Monkey at Typewriter that says, does the argument from personal incredulity become better if I'm like really incredulous, like forcefully incredulous, asking for a caller?
Yes. 100%. Yep. just show them that you're a tiger. Show them what you can do. Monkey at the Typewriter.
Crouching tiger, hidden balls.
Yep. Yeah, buddy. No, you don't get it. I'm really incredulous. Like really incredulous. Oh, well, in that case. Yeah.
Obviously, you're right.
Was it A Few Good Men? A Few Good Men, where Demi Moore goes, No, I forcefully object.
Can you read this one?
Oh, Jesus Christ, John Geyer. Jesus wore a crown of thorns. Derreck has a cut on his forehead, which raises the question, was Derreck making out with Jesus? At least one picture on the internet seems to indicate this. Oh, sigh. Yeah, sometimes the Lord and I, we just get freaky, man. Those holes in his hands, I put those to good use. Let's just be honest. Like, that's what they're there for. John Geyer, yeah. You're a goddamn mess. You're a mess, sir. You are 100%. You're a problem. You are a problem for society at large. Lord.
All right, and then we've got 1999 from the Mythic Life saying, I'm projecting some money for GE and Derreck's show. Thank you for that projection. Let me receive it. I got it. I got the 20 right here. All right. And I guess that's it for Super Chats tonight. Thank you guys for supporting the show. Those that did, really appreciate y'all being here. I got a little thing to go through here at the end. I want to thank the mods in the chat tonight. You guys are awesome for keeping the chat on track and trying to drive people to the show. I saw y'all trying to do that, and I really appreciate that. And then I believe is it David that's on the call screener tonight? I believe it's yes. Yeah, David. Yes. Thanks, Arden. Thank you to this call screener, David. You're awesome. Thank you so much for screening the calls tonight. And then Derreck, thank you for joining us tonight. You want to plug your stuff one more time? Tell people where they can find you, what you do, and all that kind of good shit.
Oh Lord, you can you can find me on YouTube. The channel is Atheologica. I've been a little bit at rest with that, making some personal life changes and whatnot. So I've not been doing a whole lot with it lately. But you can find, I think there's north of 100 videos on there that you can check out. That is full of informative and entertaining stuff.
Yeah, and I have to say one of the things that I really love about the videos that you produce is that you're sure to like put extensive quotes in there from like scholars, and all forms of scholars. So, and you back up everything that you put out there with scholarship. So I really enjoy that, and I appreciate that. I've been catching up on your channel, and I have to say that the ones that you've done against Testify, Eric Manning, have been great and everything. So I think everybody should go and subscribe to Atheologica. Did I get that right?
You got it this time. You got that dick out of your mouth, and you finally said it right.
I know.
About time. Jeez.
And yes, and my channel. Thank you, honey. I was getting to it. Everybody can come and subscribe to me, Godless Engineer, here on YouTube. Just type in Godless Engineer. You'll be able to find me. And then, to close out, I just want to remind everybody of the Patreon. And the show's going to end with all the scrolling names of the top tier patrons, the patron credit producers, and that's going to be it for our show. I hope you heathens liked it. I know we had fun talking to Anthony twice. But
call me, Anthony. Call me.
Call you. Thank you, heathens, for joining us tonight, and I guess we will see y'all later. Got to do that Trump dance.